Hi everybody! So today I'm going to be making a video on my fears for my upcoming Appalachian Trail Thru-Hike. So if you're new to my channel, my name's Gabby and I'm going to be attempting to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail in 2023. So today I'm going to be making a video about the things that I'm worried about when I hike. So before I start the video, I want to thank you guys so much for all the support on my last video. If you haven't seen it, I made a video on how much money I'm going to be saving for the AT, and I kind of broke down the budget that I was going to need and where I was going to need to save money and what I was saving money for. And I also talked about how I was saving money for the trail. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. But I want to thank you guys so much because I got so much support on it. So many really great comments from people giving me a lot of advice, and I loved talking to you guys in the comments about it. Alright, so we'll jump into the video now. So I'm going to start with what I'm least to most fearful about for my Appalachian Trail Thru-Hike. So number 4 on my list is animals. Animals is it's low on my list of things I'm worried about, but it is still on my list. I've been hearing about more problems with bears getting into hikers' food on the Appalachian Trail, and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy just recently changed their recommendation to bear canisters. So personally, I'm opting to not take a bear canister. It's not really something that's up for debate for me unless it was required. I just don't want the extra bulk and the weight, and I know that most people in the past have been fine hanging their food properly, so I'm just going to try to do my best to make sure I'm following the proper guidelines for hanging my food, putting it in bear boxes, you know, keeping all scented things out of my tent and sleeping area. But it's still something I'm a little worried about. I guess a little worried about, you know, a bear getting into my food bag, or having an encounter with a bear that's aggressive. I know most of the time with black bears, they are easily scared away and you just got to make noise and, you know, they'll run away. But there's obviously been cases of bears that are accustomed to humans, so I'm a little worried about that. But when I say animals, I would say I'm mostly afraid of snakes. I have seen lots of thru-hikers videos, and I feel like almost every thru-hiker encounters rattlesnakes in Pennsylvania. I'm from Connecticut, so we do have rattlesnakes here. I've luckily never seen one, but I am scared of getting bit by a rattlesnake. That might seem irrational, but I know they're really poisonous, and I've seen too many videos of hikers almost stepping on rattlesnakes while they're hiking, so that is something I'm very worried about. Otherwise, though, not too worried. I guess I'm a little worried about ticks. I have permethrin for my gear. I'm going to bring bug spray, DEET or Picaridin, one or the other, and using a combination of the two, I haven't had issues with ticks. And I live in Connecticut where Lyme disease started, I guess, but I am worried about getting a tick in an area where I'm not going to be able to find it. I would say wildlife is last on my list, but it's still on my list. So my third fear for my thru-hike, getting injured. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm really clumsy and I'm super worried that even being careful, I'll end up snapping an ankle or busting up my knee or doing something that will be painful enough to end my thru-hike. One of the worst case scenarios in my mind is enjoying myself out there and having a really good time and having an injury that could possibly end that thru-hike. So some ways that I'm gonna try to avoid getting injured is in the beginning, I'm gonna start slow. I'm gonna do, 7 to 10 miles a day. I'm not gonna push myself more than that. If I'm even tired before 7 miles, I will just stop and set up camp. I'm also gonna be using trekking poles pretty religiously. I mean, I think most people do, but I'm gonna be using trekking poles, especially on descents, because I already have one knee that bothers me sometimes. So I'm gonna be really good with that. I'm gonna make sure I'm wearing footwear that is good for my feet. Thinking I'm gonna go with Hoka Speed Goats. Zero drop shoes just bother my Achilles and calves. They burn when I wear them, and I know there's an adjustment period, but I just feel like more support would be better. I'm a little worried about wearing trail runners for the fact that they don't have as much support for your ankles. Right now I hike with the Salomon Mid GTX women's or something. It's a mid-rise boot, and I just feel like, I have still rolled my ankle with them before, but I just feel like having that extra support up there is good. But I don't want, first of all, they're waterproof, which I know waterproof shoes on the AT actually isn't great because they still get wet and then they take forever to dry out. So I don't want them for that purpose, but then also they're a little bulky. I definitely want something that's lighter. So I think I'm gonna go with the Hoka Speed Goats, and if those don't work out for me, I think my second option is gonna be the Topo Terra Ventures. So definitely just gonna make sure I'm wearing like shoes that don't hurt me, and I'm gonna suck it up if I have to buy another pair. So the second fear, and I consider this putting as one of my top fears, but I didn't want to put it as one of my top fears, is norovirus. So I mentioned in my video announcing my thru hike that I have some mental struggles that I'm trying to work through right now in therapy and on my own. One of them is that I have a phobia of throwing up, and it's pretty debilitating. It might not sound like it is, but it's caused me to develop OCD as a result of that, contamination OCD, which makes me a bit of a germaphobe. Listening to me talk, people are probably like, why is she gonna try to thru hike the Appalachian Trail? You're not showering, it's hard to wash your hands. I understand that. I have ways to combat it. I don't wanna let this stop me from doing something that I have dreamed of doing for a couple years now, and something that I feel like will almost challenge me mentally, and maybe it will help a little bit, but there's definitely gonna be things I'm doing to try to reduce my fear of getting norovirus, because again, we all know what norovirus does to you and why that would be an issue for me. I think it's a big fear of mine on trail because I know, like, especially in the beginning, when there's a bubble and a lot of hikers that don't have great hygiene, it can get spread. I definitely want to avoid getting that because I have a suspicion that if I contracted that while I'm on trail, that would be a huge mental struggle for me. So some ways that I'm gonna avoid it are, I'm not gonna be shaking hands with other hikers. I'll wave at people, maybe fist bump them, not shaking hands. I'm gonna bring my own pen for trail registers and logs, and even then I'm not sure if I'll be touching them. In the beginning, especially, unless I absolutely need to, I'm going to avoid shelters. I pretty much enjoy tent camping anyways. I like the idea of my own space, and I don't want to hear people snore, and I don't want mice crawling all over me, but for the fact that I want to avoid norovirus, I'm gonna avoid shelters, at least in the beginning. Once things thin out a bit, maybe I'll stay in them more, but in the beginning I'm gonna avoid them. And I'm also not gonna be sharing food under any circumstances. And then lastly, I'm gonna be bringing biodegradable soap as well as hand sanitizer. The best way to fight it is soap and water, and it might seem excessive, but for me, that's what's gonna make me feel comfortable. So that's partially how I'm gonna deal with like hygiene on the trail. Showering is a little rough for me, not being able to shower, but it's something I can tolerate. It's my own like sweat and stuff, but like hand hygiene is something that is non-negotiable for me. So I'm gonna bring Dr. Bronner's, and I will use a water bottle and Dr. Bronner's away from water sources, and I'll be washing my hands. So those are the ways I'm gonna combat that fear. And like I said, that is like on top of my list fear, and it might sound stupid to people, but it's a problem for me. I just don't want to let it stop me from hiking the Appalachian Trail. Oh, I forgot to mention, one of the last things I'm going to be doing, and this is excessive and I don't know if I'll do this the whole time, is I have two ways of filtering my water. I have the Sawyer Squeeze, and I also have a SteriPen, just because I really want to make sure everything's out of the water. It's a little annoying doing the double filtration, so I don't know how long I'll keep the SteriPen. I might end up sending it home, but in the beginning, I want to be diligent with filtering my water when I'm around a lot of people. So my top fear, and I put it over norovirus because I thought this was a lot more of a fear of mine than that, and it is not being mentally strong enough to finish the trail or hating the trail. I've been wanting to hike the Appalachian Trail for the last 2 years. It's always been a fascination of mine, but I would always tell myself, oh no, I'll only do sections of it. No, that's ridiculous. It seems too complicated. But then when I did more research, I was like, no, this seems amazing. And actually one of the first documentaries I watched on the Appalachian Trail was Julia Sheehan's, I don't know how to say her last name, her documentary on YouTube. It's really great. Watching that documentary made me really want to do it. And then I also watched Taylor the Nahamsha hike in 2021, and I watched all her videos, and I thought it looked like an amazing time. If anybody watched Taylor's YouTube videos, you know that she is like an incredible hiker. She's got a lot of endurance. She can go for lots of miles, and she made the trail look kind of easy. So I would say it was not the best depiction for me, but I nonetheless really enjoyed watching her videos, and she was one of the biggest inspirational factors that made me want to hike the trail. With that being said, I just really hope I have an experience like everybody else that I've watched hike the trail before me. I just really want this experience before I go off into working for the rest of my life, or at least for a good portion of my life. And I really want to be able to enjoy 6 months of peace. Just, obviously it's tough mentally and physically, but it's not going to be, like the stressors of everyday normal life, with working and having responsibilities. And I just really want to feel a little free, and I want to accomplish something that is huge and something that not a lot of people can do. Prove to myself that I'm capable of accomplishing this. So I think one of the biggest fears of mine is that I'm going to hate it out there. I'm going to be miserable, or that my mental illness is going to affect how I'm handling the trail life. I'm worried that I'll end up going home because I'm not mentally comfortable out there. I'm worried that it'll be really hard physically and I'll just hate it. I'm worried that I won't meet people and I'll be lonely. I'm worried leaving my family and my boyfriend back at home and just all the normal comforts. It's just so appealing to me, but I know it's different when you're out there on the trail. So I'm really, really worried about hating it, because I feel like I would be so disappointed in myself. I just know I'm so hard on myself with everything I do, and I know that if I don't finish this through hike, I'm going to feel like an absolute failure. And I know, people will say otherwise, and it's not about finishing. And I don't look at other people that haven't finished and think they're failures. It's just something with myself. I would just be so hard on myself. So that is my top fear, because to me that's scarier. Not enjoying something that I've spent years planning for financially, telling my friends and family, telling work, and making it this big thing that I'm going to go through hike the Appalachian Trail. If I hate it, that sounds horrible to me. So yeah, those are my fears for my upcoming through hike, and I'm just gonna work through them. I think everybody has very similar fears, so it's probably common, but I'm hoping that I can combat them and have a really great through hike. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy listening to me ramble about the things I'm afraid of. If you want to see more videos about my upcoming through hike, hit the subscribe button, give my videos a like if you can. And I also have an Instagram that I'll link below, and I'm going to be posting a lot of photos and videos for my through hike on there, so you can check that out too. Thank you. Bye.